Ladies and gentlemen, it is July 19th, 2022, and the Big 12 has said no mas. We are not going to be doing a merger with the Pac-12. We don't want to do it. And also, could they be teaming up with Notre Dame and NBC to add some value to that package? It's a busy Locked On Big 12 coming your all's way today.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast, July 19th, 2022. Thank you all for making us your first listen every single day, brought to you by LinkedIn today. Best place to post a job, find a job. It is LinkedIn. So folks, the news is just coming fast and furious. I've started to do notes for my BYU team preview that we're going to do with Jake Hatch here coming up. We're going to film that this week. And also, so we're going to do team previews, mentioned yesterday, do it for everybody. We're going to do them for all the schools that are in and going to be joining the Big 12. I'm going to add some more to that here. And so I've already started working on that. The football stuff will come, but conference realignment is not sleeping, and we got news. So I'll go with the more recent news last night. We got this from Pete Thamel over at ESPN. Talks about a partnership between the Big 12 and the Pac-12, which had been discussed extensively the past 2 weeks, have officially ended. Now, what I'm about to read to you all, there is a lot of back and forth between Big 12 sources and Pac-12 sources. So I'm going to do my best to sort it out for you all. All right. A Big 12 source said that the deal didn't work for the conference for, quote, a multitude of reasons, end quote, which included the fact that any potential deal wouldn't have driven much revenue for the league, quote unquote. It just didn't work. We'll pause right here. What did Brett Yormark say? I'm about driving up the value of this league. That is what I care about. All right. So let's just put that footnote in there. I'm going to continue to read here. There have been at least 3 Zoom calls between top league officials in the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and other calls between other factions of the leagues, including legal, to discuss different options. The extent of the conversations had not been previously reported. A Pac-12 source briefed on the conversations said that the Big 12 had expressed interest on Friday of possibly exploring a full merger. The Big 12 source said of the 3 options laid out by the Pac-12, pooling rights, a scheduling concept, or a fully combined leagues, the only scenario that could have potentially driven up value of the leagues, the sheer numbers of schools and population areas, was a full merger of the leagues. All right. So pooling rights and scheduling concepts would not have helped. A full merger was the only value proposition they saw that added value to the league. The Pac-12 source indicated the Big 12 was interested in the option. A Big 12 source said the Big 12 needed more time to explore that option further, which it did over the weekend, and decided not to explore any further options. All right, this is the big one right here. Listen to this. The Pac-12 source said that the Pac-12 was skeptical of the full merger because of the league's media rights expiring at different times. A Big 12 source countered and said the Pac-12 had expressed ways it could work around that. Quote, because the Big 12 media rights can't be negotiated until 2024, the Pac-12 schools have no motivation to join the Big 12, a Pac-12 source said. The Pac-12 has announced that they're staying together and are in the middle of media rights negotiations. Okay, folks. So it is true that the Pac-12 and the Big 12's media rights come up at different times. The thing is, they're only 1 year apart. So the Pac-12 is exploring options right now. And I guess if they get a deal done, it'll be 2 years, right? They get it done ahead of time. But I mean, they're going to be on, wherever they're going to be on this year, right? I'm not sure they can rip up the old deal too. They have with Fox and what they have with ESPN. But the big thing here is that you could work around that. This is not like the ACC and maybe the Big 12 or the ACC's deal is done in 2036. The Big 12's deal is up in 2025. The Pac-12's deal is up in 2024. There's no possible way, right? There's no possible way that a 1-year difference could not have been worked out with the television networks. I find that extremely difficult to believe. I bet a lot of you all do too. I mean, so we couldn't find. I mean, we got schools leaving early all the time, not telling people all the time, and their legal departments are working double overtime probably to make sure their I's are dotted and T's are crossed. There's no way those legal departments, especially if I mean, OU and Texas and the SEC, their legal departments are working, to avoid the Big 12, to make sure nothing happens between those schools and the Big 12. You're hearing about USC and UCLA, the California Gavin Newsom, who I think is the head of the UC Board of Regents. He's saying that they're going to threaten legal action against UCLA. I'm sure UCLA, as part of the UC school system, probably saw that coming. They have to work against each other. This is a situation where those legal departments would be working together, and most likely the TV partners would be working together as well, right? So Fox and ESPN would be working with the Pac-12 and the Big 12 to make sure all of this stuff worked together. Now, I know the Pac-12 network also exists too, but like everybody on the same team, and the lawyers couldn't figure it out, they wouldn't be able to come together. I don't believe that for a second. It sounds like to me that the Big 12 took a good look at this and said, the full merger doesn't make sense for us. It does not make sense for a full merger between the Pac-12 and the Big 12, especially if we could pick off the schools individually, right? We don't need to take the whole steak, guys. We can cut the parts of the fat off. Look, some of you guys might like the fat in your steak. That's totally fine. I had a ribeye the other day. I had some of the fat on it, but there might be a piece of burned fat or something that's too chewy that you don't want. I hate making this food analogy. It sounds awful to do this to Washington State and to Oregon State and to Stanford and to Cal, but you might say, I don't need those. And so look, I think we should give Brett Yormark in the Big 12 and whoever's working there right now, because I know it's transition, but Brett Yormark's the one in charge. I think we should give them their kudos for picking up the phone and listening. All right. They explored the options. They looked at it. They considered. When Brett Yormark said they're open for business, he meant it. They 3 Zoom meetings, and they took the time to consider this right after Big 12 media days. Folks, they're working. They're operating. And this was not the Pac-12 telling the Big 12 no. The Big 12 told the Pac-12, I'm not sure how I just said, the Big 12 told the Pac-12 no. That is what happened here. And the Pac-12, obviously in this, I understand they're trying to save some face saying, hey, look, the media rights thing, it just would not have worked out like this. Bull, you know what, all right? That's not true. We all know that's not true at all. Do not buy that. I know they have to sell it to us, but don't buy that. So now, I mean, this is bad news for the Pac-12, because here's the thing. There have been talks about a scheduling alliance or a loose association between the Pac-12 and the ACC. And there is talk about a conference championship game between the Pac-12 and the ACC. We have those. They're called bowl games. All right. Does anybody want to watch another bowl game between Utah and Pitt? Like last year, that would have been the game. Sure, Clemson, Oregon's probably going to happen, hopefully a couple times, right? That'd be awesome to see. Florida State versus Oregon, and Miami versus Washington, and Virginia Tech versus, pick somebody else if they win, Colorado 1 year, whatever it is. I know that wouldn't be super appealing, but whatever. Not the point. Actually, that is the point. I mean, like, how much more money are we going to make there with this loose association, right? And we already had one partnership between these conferences. Now, the Big Ten was involved. They poached the UCLA and the USC component of this. But really, y'all are going to head back to the table again and do one of these loose associations? The Pac-12 is in trouble, y'all. It is in trouble out there. Maybe Oregon and Washington can pull something off where they add a couple more schools to that league. But they are not staying. If they are serious about football, and look, we've seen with all the momentum that they've had in Oregon, especially, we know they're serious. And Washington, they are also pretty serious about their football. Now, once again, very serious about their academics and some other political things that you all, have voted here in the comments section, which I appreciate. The point being, folks, is that this feels like, one of the really good opportunities the Pac-12 had. It's gone now. It's gone. And so they're going to have to search for other options. The Big 12, I would say, I was saying wait before, this might be the time to strike. Look, Utah, Colorado, and the 2 Arizona schools, those schools might be wanting to see this thing out. To see all the options they get, I should say. Right? They might want to wait for this exclusive negotiating window. For those of you who don't know, the Pac-12 is in the midst of a 30-day exclusive negotiating window with Fox and ESPN, who they do the rights. I think Fox still does. You guys correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think they still have some of the rights. Who are involved with the Pac-12. All right, they are still they're still in that exclusive negotiating window. Okay, once that ends, everybody is allowed to come talk to them. Now, who it's going to be, I don't know. But the Big 12 is sitting there, and they have to be poking Utah, Arizona State, and Colorado and saying, look, we're interested. We want you. We want to add you all. We want to bring you guys in. Utah, we got a partner for you in BYU. Colorado's right next door. Arizona's just down, just it's touching the corner, right? Arizona schools, we're a good landing spot. Texas is right here. Just flip over one state, and you're over here. And obviously Colorado, welcome back to the league. I mean, it's right there. Also, if you target those 4 schools first, I mean, I think if Oregon and Washington need a home, I think somebody else will open the doors. I think the Big Ten opens their doors, but it could create an unstable situation where you could get Oregon and Washington into the league, and we know that those would be the 2 best brands in this league. I think it's pretty fair to say those would be the 2 best brands you could bring in. I mean, I mentioned that Wheel of 24. I'll keep mentioning it. The schools that add TV revenue, because that's what Brett Yormark wants. He wants television. He wants to add value. That's there. All right. That's there. So this is a new development. We're going to talk more about this tonight on the roundtable. That's coming up. The Tuesday night roundtable will be out on Wednesday, but more content kind of surrounding this. And we'll see if anything else breaks. But for right now, the Big 12 has said no to a merger. And so now I think it's time to pick your targets, boys. That's kind of what they're going to do. They're going to pick their targets and see what they can cut off some of the fat and get some of the meat on that Pac-12 bone and bring it over, to the kind of the potluck that is the Big 12 right now. Because look, there were some concerns that this was a pretty small gathering. Folks are starting to fill up. We could get some more friends coming to the Big 12 here pretty soon. But the upshot here, the Big 12 says no with good reason to a merger with the Pac-12. All right, word from our sponsors, and then a new piece of news about could the Big 12 team up with Notre Dame, and could they go to NBC? That's here in 1 second. Today's show was brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn, guys, is the best place to find a job, the best place to put a job if you are a job seeker. Sun's coming out for small businesses, and they are back in business after COVID and during the summer here. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Create a job post in just minutes. LinkedIn Jobs is the place to go to do so. Over 810 million people on that professional network. It'll help you guys find the candidates once again faster. Do you know that 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn weekly? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right. So this is from Dennis Dodd yesterday. Stewart Mandel over at ESPN, the last one. Go check out that piece. This is from Dennis Dodd over at CBS Sports. So Dennis says this: Notre Dame is targeting a $75 million annual media rights payout in the quest to remain independent. So Notre Dame wants to get at least $75 million a year. They partner with NBC. Now it's set to expire in 2025 right now, but for NBC to feel comfortable raising Notre Dame's valuation to such a level, it's seeking shoulder programming. In this case, games played before and or after Notre Dame's contest from a Power 5 conference to enhance its college football coverage. When such a move has been speculated previously, the Big Ten conference was mentioned as the target most often. However, the Big 12 has emerged as a strong option to fill NBC's shoulder programming needs. The Big Ten is expected to announce a new $1 billion media rights deal, possibly as early as this month, with Fox as its primary partner. So that's what we've been talking about. Fox, the Big Ten, ESPN, and the ACC and the SEC are teamed up currently. It's believed to be seeking 2 to 3 other partners to air its programming, with NBC reportedly among the bidders. Excuse me. So, outgoing Commissioner Bob Bowles, we say you've not heard anything about NBC, but he said makes sense. Love you, Bob, on the way out pretty clearly. Brett Yormark replaces Bob Bowles as commissioner. He said the conference is open for business. Now, so Notre Dame's negotiations are expected to extend across the next 2 to 3 weeks, according to a source. The network has been the rights holder for Notre Dame since 1991. The current deal averages $15 million per year, but Notre Dame is earning $22 million annually due to the backloaded nature of the contract. Also, Notre Dame does pull money from the ACC contract as well. So that's something that you have to note here. This is something we're going to hit on tonight as well, but just want to put this out there that, look, this is a pretty good option. And Notre Dame games don't just they take place all over the map. Like, I know not everybody loves noon kickoffs, but a noon kickoff on NBC for a Baylor versus Iowa State, or a Baylor versus Oklahoma State, or a UCF versus, Oklahoma State, a UCF versus Houston, a Cincinnati versus Baylor, like, that's valuable programming. That might stand up against whatever some of the other games are happening. You might get fun ones like Arkansas versus Ole Miss, and those are always fun games. But in the end, those games actually don't mean a ton in the conference race because of how good, Alabama is, right? How good, LSU can be on some years, or how good a Georgia is. And depending on what the matchup is, like Florida, Florida, Tennessee's on CBS. But as soon as ESPN has the exclusive rights, if it's Florida versus Tennessee at noon, sure, it's a big contest. But if you've got Baylor playing Cincinnati in what is a more meaningful game, maybe the ratings aren't as good, but still you're going to put on prime contests at that time of the day before Notre Dame plays whoever at 3:30, right? And so you're going to catch, if you have a good game at the back end of the if you have a really good game going on NBC before the Notre Dame game, maybe you get some some eyeballs to cross over. Now, the one risk that you run here is if the games run long, Notre Dame, basically what you want to do is you'd probably want to space out the time, right? So if you have a noon game, noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central time, what you'd probably want to do is you'd want to put the Big 12 game at noon, the Notre Dame game at 4, right? Give it some time to make sure you can get yourself a Notre Dame pregame show in there, or 4:30. If it's a 7 o'clock Notre Dame game, maybe you want the 3 o'clock Big 12 game to take place. So the fact that maybe the Big 12 wouldn't be fitting into conventional time slots to team up with Notre Dame, I actually think is good, right? Because it's kind of, you can have your own time slot. And I like the fact that the Big 12, sure, you might not be getting the money that Notre Dame is getting, but you're kind of pooling your resources with a power. You're teaming up with a power there. And maybe also that sets up for the Big 12. Maybe you, as part of this contract, I know Notre Dame's pretty scheduled out, but maybe you can find a way down the line to include some Big 12 versus Notre Dame games, right? BYU versus Notre Dame, Baylor, and also, you can hit the religious loop. I mean, the Big 12 is, we're people of God, I guess, in this conference, because we got TCU, we got Baylor, we're gonna be with BYU, we're gonna. I mean, if they get involved with Notre Dame, like, they're gonna hit they're gonna have every denomination under the Christian faith pretty soon here. But that stuff, like, once again, you guys saw my episode yesterday. If you haven't, go check it out. Like, that stuff does not matter to me at all. I do not lean one way or the other. I care about the overall health of the conference. And so this, I think, would be a really good, this would add value to the league. What the payouts will be for the Big 12, I'm not sure. So NBC Sports is no longer a channel. So would this put Big 12 games on Peacock and USA? I would say yes. So there is an idea. There is going to be maybe some drop in visibility here that could happen. But folks, if the TV contract is worth it, if the money is there, I think it's going to be worth exploring. So this is something we're going to hit on even harder. But the pairing up with Notre Dame, to me, guys, that doesn't put them in the league, but attaching yourself to a brand like that is going to help you get visibility. Structuring games around Notre Dame games is going to help with visibility. I love all of it. All right, so what we're going to do here is one more word from our sponsors, and then we'll get out of here. Want to thank you all for watching today's show. We are brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. Go to BetOnline today. When you guys do, it's a new sleek interface. You guys can bet on who will win the conferences in 2022. You can bet on F1, NASCAR, UFC, boxing, all those things. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at LO Big 12. Make sure you guys follow me at JoshNeighbors_. Find the show wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as well. The next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.